often purity and chastity are associated with young, unmarried ladies as they await marriage, keeping themselves from sexual immorality. However, in Scripture, we see that married women with children are encouraged to be chaste and pure as well. So there must be more to it. Let's get into it. Raquel here. Today we are going to discuss what it means to be chaste as godly women and what that looks like in our lives. This is our Women Living Torah Challenge check-in from June 2021, and it's been a while, but we are here and we're going to discuss and explore this topic of being pure and being chaste together because it is so important, and I learned a lot from studying this challenge and I'm excited to share it with you today. These Women Living Torah challenges are all about diving into biblical womanhood and truly allowing the Spirit of the Lord to work godliness within us throughout the month. And we've looked at what it means to be sober-minded. A godly woman carefully and prayerfully considers the different situations that she finds herself in, the different contexts, and she responds appropriately with wisdom, with sound judgment, rationale, and the like. We've also studied what it means to be discreet. A godly woman is going to have good taste and good judgment with her words, with her actions, with her decision making. And today we're looking at what it means for a godly woman to be pure and to be chaste. I have already announced the March 2022 Women Living Torah Challenge. I'll put a link to it in the description box. I hope you'll join in. Give me a thumbs up if you were a part of this challenge or if you plan to join this coming month, and let's talk about what it means to be pure. As I mentioned in the beginning of this video, purity is often related to unmarried women as they wait for marriage. However, we see in Titus chapter 2 that the aged women are to teach the younger women to be chaste and to love their husbands and their children. And then in 1 Peter chapter 3, we see that the husbands are beholding the chaste lifestyle of their wives. So clearly, chastity or purity is not for unmarried women alone. And then when you look at the Greek word that's used in Titus chapter 2 and 1 Peter chapter 3 for being chaste, it means, generally speaking, freedom from defilements or impurities, pure. It's used once in 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 2 to describe a virgin, so it carries with it a connotation of being free from sexual immorality. However, that is the only instance in Scripture where this word is used exclusively for sexual immorality. Instead, throughout the whole of Scripture, we see this word being used to just generally mean being innocent, being blameless. And that fits a bit better with the wives and the mothers of Titus chapter 2 and 1 Peter chapter 3 than waiting for marriage does. But there is more to this word, a golden nugget that I am super excited to share with you today. There are a couple of words primarily used in the apostolic writings that mean to be free of defilement, to be pure. Of course, there are derivatives of those words and other words. However, there are two primary ones. And this word here, katharos, the Complete Word Study Bible says, is used to describe a state of being free from defilement. So for example, a state of being physically pure after giving birth to a child. Or this word is also used to describe a state of being spiritually pure by obedience to the truth through the Spirit. But our word for chaste that's used in Titus chapter 2 and 1 Peter chapter 3 here on the screen also is said by the Complete Word Study Bible not to just be free of defilement, but it carries with it the connotation of the motive to be free of defilement, of the desire to be pure and blameless and innocent. It describes purity as a core element of a person's character and ethics. Now, of course, ethics always have actions. We're going to act on the principles that we believe. So that's why I would suggest we do see derivatives of this word being used to describe a state of physical purity, such as after a Nazirite vow or before Passover. But what we specifically as women are being encouraged in is to have a genuine and sincere desire to be blameless and innocent and free of defilement, morally, spiritually, physically, pure in just every sense of the word. Being chaste is not just an act or a process of purification. It's not just being pure in heart, but it's having a heart for purity that we as godly women should be seeking after. And when I was studying this all out and I saw the distinction between a state of purity and having a desire for purity, then I just saw this really neat context, because you have to understand that the women of the apostolic writings, and for many Torah observant, Torah pursuant women today, physical purification is very much on our mind. It's something that we're constantly doing or attempting to do to some regard through mikveh, which is the symbolic washing of yourself in water, not because you're dirty, but symbolically, in obedience to God's command in Leviticus chapter 12 and Leviticus chapter 15. There's physical purification after childbirth. There's physical purification after your menstrual cycle, after intimacy with your husband, not to mention any other purification that may need to happen due to defilement by a dead body and whatnot. So for women, physical purification is a big deal. It's something that we're constantly doing, and it could easily become just this rote ritual, just something that we do. We're unclean, now we're clean. When physical purification should be an overflow of this inward desire to be free from defilement, an overflow of an eagerness and a passion for Yahweh and for His ways and keeping His commandments. You have to remember who these letters were written to within the apostolic writings. These ladies were constantly doing mikveh. They were constantly hosting people in their home for Shabbat. They were dressing modestly daily. They were living a pure life, and that is good. But the Lord wants more. He wants to know, is our heart in it? Do we truly desire purity? And so for our first challenge, we read Genesis chapter 24, which is the love story of Isaac and Rebekah, which in itself is such a beautiful story because of the innocence, the purity of it all. There's no drama, there's no heartbreak, there's no compromising. It's just a simple, trusting love story. It's literally, Rebekah says, I will go, and then Isaac takes Rebekah into his mother's tent. She becomes his wife, and he loves her. And that's it. There's so much that we could say about purity within this story and with the people in this story. But what struck me about Rebekah in regards to being chaste is found in Genesis chapter 24, verses 18 through 20. And this is when the servant comes to her and asks her for a drink of water. And she said, drink, my lord. And she hasted and let down her pitcher upon her hand and gave him drink. And when she had done giving him drink, she said, I will draw water for your camels also until they have done drinking. And she hasted and emptied her pitcher into the trough and ran again unto the well to draw water and drew for all his camels. We see this young lady who doesn't know who this man is. She doesn't know what his mission is. She doesn't know what he had just prayed. And she is hasting to get him a drink of water. And then she initiates getting drink for all of his camels also. And she doesn't just drag her feet, but she hastes to get drink for his camels also and runs to do it. What is written about her actions is a genuine concern and care for this man's well-being. She wasn't just doing what was asked of her. She wasn't acting for reward. She wasn't doing it with moaning or dragging her feet, but she had an eagerness and an urgency to do what was loving and upright and blameless to this stranger. She delighted in purity. Our memory verse for this purity challenge was Psalm 19, verse 14. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Yahweh, my strength and my redeemer. May not only what I speak be blameless before you, Yahweh, but even what I am thinking before I speak and as I'm speaking be pure. When you were a child, did you ever say, I'm sorry to someone in just the nastiest tone of voice? Your words may have been acceptable, but the meditation of the heart was far from repentant. That's the distinction that this word for chaste is making. As godly women, we should haste to do what is upright and blameless like Rebekah because we delight in purity, truly desire it. And impurity of any kind, physical, moral, spiritual impurity, should have no pleasure to our souls whatsoever. The Complete Word Study Bible, also regarding our Greek word for chaste, says that it implies a certain inward shrinking from pollution. I love that. Being chaste implies a certain inward shrinking from pollution. It's twofold. It's this desire for chasteness, and it's this repulsiveness to what is impure and ungodly. If our life looks no different from the rest of the world, if the books and movies on our shelves, the things that we talk about, the clothes that we wear, the principles that guide our life look no different from the rest of the world, we need to seriously consider where our affections lie. To be chaste women is to sincerely desire more of you, Lord, and less of me. Refine me to make me more like you, to imitate you in your holiness, and let ungodliness in my life and in my thoughts become repulsive to me. Ungodliness, impurity, the unwholesome, indecent sinfulness of this world and of our own fleshly lust has no place in our affections and desires, and therefore it has no place in our life. 2 Timothy chapter 2 verse 22 says, "Flee also youthful lusts, but follow righteousness, faith, charity, peace with them that call on the Lord out of a pure heart." Do we as godly women haste to be upright and blameless? Do we flee from ungodliness and defilement? We had the task in our challenge of examining our wardrobes for modesty. Do we feel like we're being forced to dress this way? Or is it our sincere pleasure to honor the Lord with our bodies? How are we responding when there's a random inappropriate scene in an otherwise good movie? Do we wait to see if there's another scene like it? At what point are we fleeing from that immorality? What do we do when we're using a music streaming service that begins to play all kinds of promiscuous and perverse advertisements in between our Shabbat songs for children? Oh, be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little ears, what you hear. About a year ago, YouTube Shorts came out. And at first, I just thought it was just another feature on YouTube with, funny viral cat videos and whatnot. And the worst of it seemed to be that you would stay on YouTube longer than you really wanted to because you'd just be scrolling. But then I began to notice curse words peppered throughout all the different videos I was watching. And then there would be a provocative dance here or there. There would be immodest dress. There would be ungodly topics. And you would scroll past as soon as you realized what you were watching, or you just let it slide because it's only, 10 seconds anyway, or 30 seconds anyway. And it would all mostly be fine, and you would be comfortable with that content, except for that random one that comes up here and that random one that comes up there. You would have never sought that content out on your own, but by the time you're done scrolling, you've seen and heard and filled yourself with so much more unwholesome content than you would ever be comfortable with. So when I realized what was happening here, I was kind of on the fence, like maybe I shouldn't be watching YouTube Shorts, but I wasn't super serious about not watching YouTube Shorts until I had a conversation with another person, and they shared how YouTube Shorts stirred up an old pornography habit that they thought that they had beat. And from that conversation on, I have been absolutely disgusted with YouTube Shorts because I understood exactly how they got to that point. It's just a little compromise here. Oh, that's not cool. Scroll past it. Then a little bit of compromise there. And it just pulls you further and further away from what is actually acceptable and pleasing in Yahweh's sight. Flee impure things, ladies. Flee. Be chaste. Love what is upright. Love what is blameless. Love what is holy. Love what is pure. Do not give place to evil in your life. Do not give place to defilement in your life. Do not give place to unwholesome and impure things in your life. There's this dual nature to being chaste. It is to love what is good, love what is pure, love what is blameless, and to shrink away from what is ungodly and unwholesome. I have loved studying what it means to be a chaste woman with you in this video, and in the next video, part 2, we are going to discuss some different things that we need to flee from as pure women, as chaste women. Fleeing impurity, what does that look like in a godly woman's life? So I look forward to seeing you in that video. If you enjoyed this one, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what your takeaways were about chaste from this challenge or from this video. I look forward to interacting with all of you in the comments. And until next time, I pray that Yahweh would bless you and keep you. I'll talk with you later. Goodbye.